back to my channel. Tonight I am here with the beautiful Betty LaRose, and we're going to do a live makeover for you guys tonight. So I'm going to do her full face start to finish and explain everything I'm doing and everything that goes through my head when I'm doing a client. And we are live, so if you guys have any questions, you're welcome to ask them in the chat room. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Go ahead and close for me. So why I prime her eyes, I'm going to kind of break down what goes through my head when I first look at a client before I'm about to do their makeup. So usually I look at three things first. First I'll look at their face shape and then their prominent features, what I want to enhance, and then I'll look at their coloring. So for Betty, she has really beautiful brown eyes and they're on the warm side. So they're very rich and warm, but she has this beautiful, not lilac, this like deep purple hair color. So we could kind of choose with her, we could do the warm family to bring out her eyes, or we could go dabble in the cools to make her hair color pop. And she, with her skin tone, she's fairly neutral, so either would look good on her. So what I'm gonna do today actually is do some purples, play with the purples, because I haven't done that too much on my channel. I've mostly done warm colors. Your warm colors are like your safe colors. Like if you sit down with a client and you do a warm palette, like a warm neutral palette, as long as it's not super vibrant, it's probably gonna look good. So I'm gonna show you how I use cools without making them look washed out or muddy. So I primed her eyes. Her skin is fairly dry, she was telling me. So I primed her eyes with concealer that's gonna dry to a matte finish. If I have a client that is on the more oily side, I would use like a sticky primer base. So what I'm going to do for her is I'm going to open my Modern Renaissance palette, and we're going to use, I don't even know how to say the name, I'm going to hold it by her face so you guys can see. We're going to use this like lilac color. So it's a cool purple, but it's not going to come across as like, when you're working with purples, you don't want to make people look bruised. That's like the biggest thing you want to stay away from, because if you've ever noticed someone with a black eye, they usually have purple in there. So we don't want to make our client look like that. So this is like a neutral lilac, and then I'm going to add some deeper colors as we go. So Betty has really pretty eyes. I'm going to focus on the eyes today and make those pop for her and use these really pretty purple colors. But her eyes are on the smaller side, so we want to enlarge them today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend my shadow a little bit upward and outwards and just smoke it up fairly close to her brows. So this color that I'm starting with today, it's pretty light. Like this is going to be my transition color, but because I'm taking this up fairly high, like above her crease, it's going to open her eyes a little bit more. Turn her this way. And also another thing when you're working with like purple shadows or cool tone shadows, it's hard to, a lot of people make mistakes when it comes to the lip and the cheek color, because sometimes it's a hard color to balance. So I'm going to show you once we get to those areas what I like to do. And Betty is a model, so she has had her makeup done tons of times. So she was fun today. She said I could do whatever I wanted. And depending on what you're doing your client's makeup for, obviously, as you're going, you need to be asking them a lot of things, what they like, what they don't like, if they're allergic to anything, stuff like that, and their preferences. And it depends on what the shoot is for. So you're when you're working with your client, you're blending what they want, obviously, is the most important, but then your knowledge as a makeup artist comes into, you need to know what's it for. Is it for a photo shoot? What kind of lighting does the photographer do? How does their editing style look? And then you can alter the makeup to fit those things and get it to what the client wants as well. And Betty is growing out her eyebrows, so we didn't pluck them before we started. And that's actually really smart. If you want to change up your eyebrow shape, it's smart to do what Betty does and just like let them grow, because that's really the only way to start over. And yours look pretty good. You have a pretty good natural shape. Sometimes when you do that, it's like, it's pretty crazy. Okay, so I'm going to dip into my MAC palettes, and I'm going to go a little bit darker. So I did this lighter color to just establish like a new shape to her eyes. So we opened her eyes a little bit up, we extended it. So now I'm going to deepen this crease area. So I'm going to mix a couple deeper medium toned purples, and they're still in the cool tone family. So every color that you work with is gonna have a warm or a cool shade. Even purples. If purples have like a very red undertone, they're gonna be more warm. If they have more of a blue base or almost like a gray base, they're more cool. So pay attention to which ones you're gravitating towards and putting on your client. Usually you want to stay within the same color family for your entire look. Not always. Makeup is art. You can do whatever you want. But that's a good rule of thumb when you're starting. And I'm going to stick to mostly mattes on her today. I might do a pop of shimmer just on her lid. Okay, go ahead and look forward for me. Perfect. But I kind of like, I think it opens up her eyes when right here is a little bit lighter. So I'm going to go in back to my Modern Renaissance palette, and I'm going to use my flat, really dense brush. And I really love the light color that comes with this palette. It's a matte, but it has kind of like some pinky undertones, so it's really pretty. And what I'm going to do, anytime you put a light color on the face, it's going to open up the features and it's going to make everything come forward a little bit. So if you want to make something look bigger, you put a light shadow on it. If you want to make something either look smaller or recede, you're going to put a dark shadow. So we're just going to strategically place light and dark on her lids to just change her eye shape a little bit. I'm going to darken up her crease and I'm going to lift it a little bit. And this color, it's a matte, but it has a little bit of a sheen to it. And the cameras we shoot with are HD, so they pick up anything. If there's a speck of shine or anything, it'll look like a shimmer. So in real life, this looks more matte than it is picking up probably in camera. Okay, so I'm going to go back into that light lilac shade and just blend those together. And we're going to do a bit of a smoky look on her. So I'm going to add a defining color, an even darker color to her crease. If this was for a day look or something more subtle, you could actually stop here and just apply your liner. That medium purple would be enough for a definition. Okay, I'm going to grab one more palette. This is Marvelous Mauves by Dose of Colors, and their darkest purple in here is really pretty for defining everything. So I'm going to dip into that, go ahead and close, and I'm just going to do a super tiny V on the outside. And these shadows are super, super powdery, so you're probably going to get fallout. It helps to do the eyes first. You can wipe off if anything falls. Another reason I like to do the eyes first is I like to let the skin prep sink in before I start to add her foundation. So she has a pretty balanced skin type, but she is a little more dry. So I put a hydrating moisturizer on her, and then I put a veil primer on her that's just going to go in and fill the pores and hydrate a little bit more. So that is sinking in. Okay, go ahead and close. I'm just going to add a little bit more of that light purple to blend everything in. If you apply your dark shadow correctly, sometimes you don't even need to blend it out. I just want to soften it a little bit. You always want to be blending as you go. I'm just lightly buffing everything together. So basically what I want to do is to create two different gradients. Go ahead and close your eyes. So I created a gradient. I did a light color up here, and then a medium tone in this V, and then a darker color right down there. That's my first gradient. My second is a light to dark going this way. So we did the lighter color in here, and then that light color that we did in the crease, I added it right there, and then the dark colors in the crease. So that's just a very general flattering eye shape for everybody. It looks good on everybody. Okay, go ahead and look up for me, Betty. I'm gonna put, this is an Urban Decay pencil, and it is like a dark purple. And we're just gonna put this in her waterline. Go ahead and look down for me and smudge it. So I'm not gonna do a wing on this look. I'm just gonna smudge this purple liner out, and it's gonna be really, really pretty. Go ahead and close. Good job. Look up for me. So this dries to a long wear finish. This is their 24/7 pencil. But when you first put it on, it is going to be smudgeable, and so I have that work to my advantage. So I put it on, and I have her close her eyes, and then it's going to transfer, go ahead and look down, some of that color to her top waterline too. So I want everything to look nice and smudgy. Okay, go ahead and close. Perfect. All right, go ahead and close for me. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the top as well. So I'm just doing like short back and forth motions. And then I'm going to go in with my pencil brush and smudge this a little bit. Because I don't want a perfect line. I want it to be super soft and diffused. And colored eyeliners are really, really fun to work with. They're really good at making the eye color pop. And if you get the right shade, they don't, like this doesn't immediately look purple, it just looks like a dark eyeliner until you look a little closer. Go ahead and close for me. So these little pencil brushes have like a pointed tip, and if you really lightly go back and forth, it's gonna diffuse everything together. Awesome, okay. So now that that's on, we're gonna put on her lashes. It's my favorite part. So these are the Ardell 812s, and these are their foaming collection. So they're really soft and they're really fluffy, but they're still natural looking. So what I want to do on Betty is I want to extend her eyes a little bit. So I'm gonna do the lashes a little bit longer than the length of her lid. But here's the trick. When you're doing lashes on somebody, you never want to do them too big or to have them extend too far in the middle. Go ahead and look down for me. Because when they close their eyes, everything condenses and it's gonna poke her when she closes her eyes in the middle. So we definitely want to avoid that. So you want to be really careful where you're putting the front of the lashes. And I always have my clients look down, but I don't have them closed. She can blink if she needs to. And that way she doesn't get stuck. Because that's no fun. Okay, perfect. So while that dries, I'm going to do the other one. And I usually like a black glue. Unless I'm doing a supernatural look on a model, I always do black. And I like brands that dry super fast. And this brand of lashes has like a clear base. Some of them have a black base, but the clear ones are nice. They're very seamless. The black ones are a little bit more dramatic. These lashes remind me of like the Red Cherry 213s, like that really, really natural kind of rounded shape. They're like tapered, but not super perfect at the tip. They're just a little bit softer. Like they're faux mink, but they look like the real mink, like they look like hairs. So they're really pretty. They're good for brides or close-up shots or something like that. Gonna look down. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more glue to these centers. Sometimes when you use the fast dry glue, they don't always stick right away. And you don't, if it's your own eye and your own lash glue, you can take, if the lash glue comes with a little brush, you can take the brush and just swipe it right on that corner. But if you're doing a client, you want to keep it sanitary, so you can put it on like your clean tweezers or a stainless steel spatula or something like that. Okay, so while that dries, we're gonna get into her skin. So like I said, I've already primed her skin, I've already moisturized, I've already used a primer. So now I'm gonna take my beauty blender, and she has great skin, it's very even. So we're just gonna do a light wash of foundation just to even everything out. But you don't wanna go too heavy unless, honestly, even if they need full coverage, you still wanna do a fairly light wash of foundation, and then you can add concealer as you need it. If I want to build something up to super full coverage, I'll usually do multiple layers. I like foundations that are buildable. And I
Make sure you hide the wrinkles.
What wrinkles? No, you have awesome skin. And that's another thing too. All of us, if you're above 20, you probably have fine lines or something. So if you go in with a really heavy foundation, like it's gonna make you look like you have wrinkles that you don't. So, like, have you noticed that? Have you ever worn like a really full coverage foundation and you're like, that's not my skin?
I look old.
Yeah, it's weird. And I love full coverage. I'm all about the full coverage, but I'm not all about the fine lines and wrinkles. So there's a balance. Another thing I really liked, like sometimes I'll do like a medium coverage foundation and then I'll do a powder, like a medium to full coverage face powder, like instead of a translucent powder. And that gives you just an extra layer of coverage. And most people powder their face anyways. So it just gives you that extra coverage without looking so cakey. Even though it's powder, you just do like a light wash of each. And like I said, we are live, so if you guys are watching right now, there's a chat room that's not available once we're done live streaming, so go ahead and ask your questions. Live makeovers are fun because you guys can see exactly start to finish everything. Everyone's different. I've found that people actually watch a good amount, even though my live videos are longer, they watch a good amount because you're just able to pick up things sometimes that you can't when a video is edited. I like the Beauty Blender because it absorbs some of my product, and so it makes everything look airbrushed. It doesn't leave any heavy spots, and it just keeps things really even.
Have you tried that silicone one?
No. Have you tried it?
No, I haven't.
I know exactly
I have one, but I haven't used
you do?
it. Yes.
You will have to let me know when you use it. I've seen that, and I can't imagine them working well because what
I wouldn't think so either. And it would be uncomfortable on your face, I would think.
If you guys don't know what we're talking about, they're beauty blenders, but they're like silicone. They look like a bra insert, right?
Yes, or your shoe, something.
Or a shoe
thing.
But they don't, like the Beauty Blender is a sponge, and so it's absorbent. So that's actually what I like about it. Like that one's not, so it just spread things around.
It's going to smear everything around, and it'll probably be heavier.
Yes, but people say it's like fingers, like that's the way they like it. But even your fingers are actually like a little bit absorbent. So
yes.
So I don't know. Verdict's out. Betty will have to let us know. Look up for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create lift with her eyeshadow. So when I was applying it, I just extended it out. I wasn't extremely careful in my placement because I knew I was doing eyes first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from the corner of her eyes and I'm just going to sweep upward a little bit to add lift. If you have any eyeshadow that's coming down here, it's going to drag down the eyes, it's going to drag down the face. We don't want that, so you want to lift it. And I'm just going to do a really light layer of concealer, and this is about a half a shade lighter than her skin tone, so it's going to highlight a little bit. It's going to bring this area forward. But you have to pay attention to the shape of your under eyes. Some people have like a really sunken under eye right here in like a bit of a bag, and she does not. But sometimes if you do a lighter concealer, it'll just accentuate that. Like it'll just make the eyes look more sunken. But if you have a nice more flat eye area like Betty, this is just going to bring everything forward and make it look very lifted and pretty and youthful. And then I'm taking my Beauty Blender again. Usually I turn it around. So I've been doing foundation on one side. I flip it around to the side that's bare and I dab in the concealer. And the reason I do that is because I want it to absorb any of the excess product. When you're working with the under eyes, you want it to be as thin as possible, because all extra product is going to do is settle into any fine lines or anything. We all have them. Everyone smiles, hopefully. You don't want your foundation to move around. And sometimes that's the problem. A lot of people will tell me like their under eye products don't stay, like they move around or they crease. And probably 70% of the time it's because you're using too much. I really love these like pointed Q-tips to get anything. Super helpful. Okay, so now that that is on, we are gonna lightly set everything. So I'm gonna use, usually I use translucent powder, but we're gonna use a mineralized skin finish on her today to give a teeny bit of coverage. And I really like the finish of this. It has like light reflecting particles in it, so it just makes the skin look really natural. Some translucent powder usually gives like a matte finish, which is pretty, but it looks a little more heavy. If you use like a skin finish or something like that, it's more natural, like it looks more like skin. But I am going to use a little bit of translucent powder because we're working with such bright lights in here. So if we were out in natural light, like if we were just sitting in front of a window or something, her skin would look very soft and even. But because we are in front of like 3 super bright lights, certain parts of her face are reflecting light more. So I'm going to mattify those. So what I want on a face, like what is generally the most appealing, you want right here to be highlighted and shiny, sometimes the forehead, sometimes the bridge of the nose, but areas like this we usually want to mattify. So translucent powder will do that, it will mattify. But if I was to do that all over her face, it would kind of take away that the pretty glow she has from her skin. So now I'm going to contour and then I'm going to highlight a little bit more. I'm going to use that same brush. And I'm going to go in with Anastasia Contour color. Just going to bronze her up a little bit. So this is when I start working with the face shape. Like I start with the eye shape. Her eyes are in balance. We made them look a little bit bigger, but we weren't really correcting anything like eyes that are too close together or too far apart. But now that we're on the face shape, when you contour, you can change the face slightly. So I start with the forehead usually, and she has like a great size forehead. It's not too big or too small. If it's too big, you add more contour. If it's too small, you really don't need any. Sometimes I just buff a little bit up just to blend the cheek contour into it. But hers is perfect. So we're just doing an average contour. And then I always like to sculpt out people's cheekbones. So I start top of the ear, and I always stop at the edge of the eyebrow, about right there. If you bring contour too far over, the face will look muddy. Sometimes it actually is counterintuitive to what you're trying to do. Instead of adding lift, you're dragging the features down. And pay attention, usually the reason I add a little bit of powder is to set the face. And some foundations are self-setting, and they don't need powder, but usually when you put a powder on top of a liquid like a face cream, it's gonna, wherever you touch your brush is gonna grab. So if you add a layer of powder, it's gonna soften things up so that when you add your contour, it's gonna blend smoothly. But if you ever contour and you realize that things are looking muddy, or wherever you put your brush is spotty, either you have too much product or you didn't set the face first. And like I said, you don't have to, but if you don't, just keep in mind that your contour might be a little bit trickier to put on. Oh, and we have a question. Hi, it's Jen. Okay, she says, if you have pronounced eye bags, should you use a concealer that's the same color or darker than your foundation? Okay, that's a really good question. I would probably say to start with one that's the same color as your face, because anything lighter is going to bring things forward. So go ahead and look forward for me, Betty. So if you had eye bags, which are right here, which a lot of people do, and you add a lighter color, it's going to bring them forward even more. So either I would use a color that matches your foundation completely, or I would use 2 colors. I would add a lighter color right under here, right in this area that's like under your bag, because usually that's what looks like it's receding. And then I would do the same color as your foundation right here, but barely. You're just gonna go like a half a shade or a shade lighter and blend it together. And what that's gonna do is the lighter concealer is gonna bring the receding, sunken in part forward, and the face color concealer is gonna just keep the bag receded a little bit, and it will make things look a little bit more even. But that's a really good question, because I think we're told, or people see a lot, to use a concealer like I dropped something, I don't know what it was, 2 shades lighter. And it's great sometimes, but sometimes, like I was saying earlier, it can pronounce the bags a little bit. You can also use like an under eye cream that has products in it that will make the under eye temporarily recede. Caffeine can be a good ingredient. I think Mac has one called, I'm blanking on the name. I'll have to add it to the description later. But there are eye creams formulated to temporarily reduce like the puffiness. And those can help too, to put those in the morning as a primer. Because sometimes it's just water retention. And we all have it. We all get a little puffy. It's life. Okay, so now that I have contoured, I'm going to highlight. And what I'm going to use on Betty today is my Hourglass highlighting palette. And I really love this one because it's just super pretty. It just looks like the skin is glowing from within, but it has no glitter. A lot of times highlighting palettes will have chunks of glitter and all those pretty things that are so pretty, but sometimes on the skin they don't look quite like we want them to. But this one is pretty. It almost looks like matte, but it just has like these crushed reflective pearly pigments in it. It may look a little bit glittery on this camera, but it's pretty matte. The Hourglass has, if you're worried about any fine lines or anything, they're my favorite. And you can put it everywhere. Like I could take a big fluffy brush and put it everywhere except for the areas I said that I wanted to keep matte. And it's really, really pretty. Okay, so now that we have that, we're gonna do some blush, if I can find it. Actually, let's do lips first because I can't find my blush. Okay, so like I was saying earlier, sometimes it's hard when you do like a purple eye look. Oh, my blush was what dropped. Thank you. But it's closed, so it's still sanitary. Okay, sometimes when you do a purple eye look, people aren't sure what lip colors to do. Like sometimes we want to go Barbie and do like hot pink, which is what I did on my face today. But it doesn't always work. So if I kind of want like a natural, balanced look with the purple eyes, I'm going to do like a cool toned brown, like a nude. Or you can do like a purpley pink, like a cool tone purple, but kind of like a neutral still. So this is Perla by Stila. I'm going to mix 2 things. So this would be like if I wanted to stay in the pink family. See how it has that really like cool undertone, but it's still kind of a neutral. The purple eyeshadows are going to make any pink in the lips look pinker, which is fine if you want to go Barbie. I love it, but usually people want to stay neutral. So we're going to do Perla and we're going to mix it with Beeper. So Beeper is more of like that brown toned cool family, and that looks really pretty with purples too. So we're going to mix both of them today. But first I'm going to outline her lips a little bit with concealer. We're going to do a liquid lip on her today, and liquid lips are fantastic because they wear super well. Like they're going to stay on much longer than a normal lipstick. Generally you can eat with them and they're not going to smudge and get everywhere. You can kiss somebody and they're not going to get up on their lips. But they are a little bit trickier to put on. They dry quicker. So usually when I do my, like a client, I'll just kind of be sculpting out their lips and reapplying because I'm working with a cream, but the liquid lips is going to dry faster. So you have to work fast. Okay, go ahead and turn forward. So I'm going to mix these 2 together. There's a lot of great brands of liquid lips. I think my favorite so far is Stila. I like that it goes on really wet, like it's very pliable. And then when it dries matte, it does not move and it stays really well. So what I did before I put this on is I took like a flat concealer brush and I sculpted out around her lip line with that concealer. I mixed concealer and foundation, so it's pretty close to her natural skin tone. It's not really lighter. If it is, it's like half a shade. And what that does is that creates a really nice shape for me. So I'm just going to draw right inside that line for her. Turn a little bit towards me. Or you can do lip liner under liquid lips. If your lips tend to be on the dry side, I do recommend a lip liner first, because liquid lips, because they dry matte and they're so long wear, they can dry your lips if they're prone to drying. With certain brands, they dry more. With this Stila, my lips haven't gotten really too dry or anything. Usually what I do is when I wash my face in the morning, I add like a nice lip balm and I let that sit in while I do my makeup, and then right before I put the liquid lips on, either the gloss has absorbed or I just wipe it off and then I put the liquid lips on. But you don't want to do it right on top of a hydrating lip balm, or else it's not going to last as long. So you want it to have either sunken in all the way or you want to wipe it off. And I didn't prime Betty's lips. A lot of times for my clients, I'll exfoliate their lips and then add some moisturizer at the beginning, like with the rest of their skin prep, so it can sit on. And a lot of the liquid lips, they'll come with really nice, like an applicator doe foot, and they're shaped really well. They're easy to apply, but because she's my client, I can't use that doe foot on everybody. So I put it on a metal palette and I use a lip brush that I can clean. But they come with great applicators. They're pretty easy to put on. And you can reapply sometimes after like 4 or 5 hours if they start to feather or the edges rub off a little bit. You can add like a thin layer over top of what you already have. Okay, so that's a really, really pretty color on her. There's one more spot I need to get. It kind of has like a slate purple undertone, but it's still neutral. It's not like hot pink or anything. Okay, hang on. Gotta get my blush that fell. Okay, so this blush, I want my blush to be like in the same tonal family as my lips usually. So this is by Tarte. This is the color Party. It's the blush they give you for your birthday. Did you ever go get like your birthday gift at Sephora?
Yes,
it's
always.
The best. You can't not. Sephora gives you like a little birthday gift in your birthday month, and they gave me this blush, and it's good because it's kind of pinky, but it has like that kind of mauvey undertone. It's actually pretty hard for me to find a cool tone blush, because usually they're so purple, or they're just like not, like you want your blush to brighten you up and make your skin look really healthy and alive. And sometimes these like deep plum blushes don't always do that. They do for darker skin tones, but for medium to light, they don't always so much. Okay, so I'm going to show you a trick to lifting the face a little bit. So I'm going to take my light translucent powder, and I'm going to take a fluffy blending brush. There we go. Okay, so this one's kind of pointy, and I'm going to dip it in the translucent powder. And I'm going to sculpt out her cheekbones a little bit. And this is an advanced tip. You don't need to do this every day. I'll start on this side so you guys can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to brighten up any darkness under here, like if my contour color dragged down or anything. And I'm really going to sculpt out her cheekbones. So I'm going to take this translucent powder and start about there and just draw a really light line to meet her lips. And what this is going to do is, why it sits on her skin, it's going to lighten the color underneath and brighten it a little bit. So I'm going to wipe it off. So I'm going to let this sit on for a minute or so, and then I'm going to wipe it off, and it's just going to create that nice lift. Okay, we have another question. Let's see. Oh, what do you use to exfoliate the client's lips? Thank you, Rachel, for your question. I really like the Lush sugar scrubs, so the Lush store, because if there's any residue on the lips, they're edible, like they're made of honey, so as long as your client's not allergic to honey or anything. So I'll exfoliate their lips, and then I will wipe it off with like a cloth or micellar water or something, and then if there is any residue on their lips, it's not like uncomfortable or a chemical taste or something like that. So usually I'll do like a light layer of that. And then I love this Dr. Lip. It's pure lanolin. I'll hold it up by her face so the camera can see. This is literally the best lip hydrator I have ever found. It works so good. So I'll usually exfoliate, and then I'll put that on. I don't exfoliate everybody. I kind of analyze their lip situation. But I really, really love that hydrating balm for everybody. Okay, so I'm not gonna heavily define her brows, just because she is growing them in, but I want to shape them a little bit. And you'll notice this happens to all of us. Like if you do let your brows grow in, you'll have one that's like thicker than the other. So this one over here has more hairs. But when you define the brows and make them a little bit darker, it kind of takes away from like the spare hairs you have. So usually what I do, I like to go in and just establish a base shape with a pencil. And then I like to go in with my brow palette, my powder, and just clean everything up. And thank you for your questions, guys. If you have any more, go ahead and write them in while we're still live. We're just about done. So I'm just gonna do her brows really quick and then finish up her eyes. So I like to add the underneath eye color after I get on my concealer and everything like that. It's my preference to do it that way because I feel like sometimes the concealer will blend up into, like, if you do the full eye first and then you do your under eye concealer, sometimes it will cover up like the work that you've done. So that's why I do it last. And then my mascara really quick. And you can do your mascara if they're like lashes that you want to get multiple uses out of. Usually I would say to apply your mascara to your own lashes first, curl them, and then put on the extensions. But usually in my clients, I just like to add a light layer of mascara after because it blends the natural lashes in perfect with the strips. And you can't tell it. So even if she was doing like a close photography, like a macro photo shoot, you wouldn't be able to see that her natural lashes were not the strips. Another thing that's awesome, like if you're a makeup artist and you're doing like a beauty shoot or something like that, I really love those little cluster lashes. Ardell has some. There's a brand called Eyeliner that has some, and they're really pretty. Like if you put those on your client and then add a layer of mascara, those look like real lashes because there's no line of the strip. And those are beautiful. Brides really love those too. Like if you have a bride that wants to look a little more natural for her wedding day, those are the best. They're so pretty. They take longer to apply because you're just doing the little clusters one by one, but they're so pretty. I think I've done them in 2 of my videos. If you search like my name, Julie Christine, and Eyeliner, the brand, there's a video, I think about 2/3 of the way, and we start doing the cluster lashes, and they're so pretty. Maybe more than that. Maybe I've done them in like 3 of my videos. They're literally my favorite thing. Like nothing is prettier than those lashes, but they do take longer, and lashes aren't as fun to watch in a live video, so I don't do those too often, but they're really pretty. Okay, so I'm gonna go in to my Modern Renaissance palette again, to that same like light purple lilac color, and I'm gonna take like a fluffy dome brush. You could use your pencil brush, whatever you want. Go ahead and look up for me. And I'm just gonna lightly add like a wash of color under her eyes. This is gonna open her eyes up a little bit because we're extending her eye shape basically with this color. And that way, sometimes when you're wearing like fuller lashes like she is, or you have smaller eyes, sometimes when you open your eyes, you can't see your eye makeup. That happens to me. If you ever notice that, it's like, oh, you can't even see my pretty eye makeup. So if you add something on the bottom, you can. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're gonna take our darker color, look up for me, and just extend the eyeliner a little bit, smoke things up. And when I do like my darker color underneath, I keep it closer to the lash line, and I usually just do the outside corner just to define the eyes a little bit. If you bring it in further, like this darker color, it's gonna close up her eyes a little bit, and we don't want that. Okay, let's wipe away our cheek color. Turn towards me, good, perfect. So once this is wiped away, it just kind of gives like a highlight on her cheekbone a little bit, or her cheek area. All right, let's add our mascara. I need to cut that brush out. Usually when I have mascara for clients, I'll take the top, like the applicator, and I cut that brush off because I never use it, and then when you set it down, it doesn't get makeup or mascara all over your other makeup. And this is a big chubby brush. I actually prefer, I just have like thousands of these I'm trying to use up, but I really love like the really skinny ones. They're like half the size and like skinnier, they're good for the bottom lashes, just to wiggle in there and then you don't get mascara everywhere. Go ahead and look over this way for me. Perfect. Because I really love mascara on the bottom lashes. Yeah, keep looking that way. Perfect. Because I feel like it just extends the eye. It opens it up a little bit. Unless someone has really large or protruding eyelids, I look over towards me. Good. I always like to add bottom mascara. Look up for me. And most people's bottom lashes are fairly short, so those like tiny little brushes will really get in there and separate those hairs. If I'm doing something really dramatic, like really glam, I'll do like bottom lashes. Have you ever worn those?
No, I haven't.
They're awesome. They're very Kardashian.
Yes.
They're all about the lashes. So pretty. So you can see how that brown, purples are actually really, really beautiful on brown eyes, especially cool tone purples. They just have a nice contrast and they make it pop, and then it looks really pretty with her hair color. I'm going to get a mirror so you can see Betty. She doesn't know what she did. I didn't show her when I was practicing. What do you think?
Wow, fabulous. I love it.
You're so
and no
pretty.
wrinkles.
No wrinkles. You didn't have them to begin with.
I love it.
You're
Perfect.
gorgeous. Thank you for being
Not
my
too
model.
heavy.
You were awesome. And thank you
Thank
guys for
you.
watching. Thanks for your questions. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not already, and I will see you tomorrow night. Bye, guys.